I remember hearing once someone said, business would be easy if there weren't people in the mix. So it just, but we can't get rid of us. Yeah. So really, like you were saying, I working with teams is just, it's the one thing that really brings me joy. And it comes down to helping them understand one another. I don't know about you, but feeling misunderstood is probably the worst feeling
Hmm.
that you can have,
I'm
right?
misunderstood quite a bit,
I think a lot of us are. I think a lot of us are. Yeah.
especially if you
And
got a language barrier, right? You
yes,
misunderstand what you're saying, but
yes, yes. Language barrier. Sometimes it's, you're not reading someone the way they, meant to come across, or really it's just as basic as we have our own filters and lenses that we tend to take in other people's communication or other people's actions. And so that's why I work with teams, that I really want to help them understand one another so that we can release the judgment, and we can, stop attaching things to what people are saying and doing that don't have to be there.
yeah. How do you do that though? Because like you said, you got different personalities, you got
Mhm.
different behaviors, and then you're going to mix these two people together. It's like lightning and thunder, or I don't know, oil and water. It just
Yeah.
separates. So how do you go into an organization where not everybody, but some people just want to attack other people, and they just can't seem to complete each other. They just compete. How do you do
Yeah.
that?
Well, and it's interesting because you also work with DISC, your behavior analysis as well, right? You have the training. It really comes down to people, first of all, being willing to want to understand themselves. It has to start with ourselves. It's so easy to look at everyone else around us and think it's their problem, right? Giulio's not understanding me because he's got the problem, or Tessa doesn't understand me because she's got the problem. But it starts with us wanting to understand ourselves first and figure out, okay, well, where am I maybe the problem? And so when you're coming into an organization, when I'm coming into an organization, the first thing I want them to understand is that they're all unique and they're all different, and they all have amazing gifts and strengths, and they all belong on this team. But if we're not creating a space where everyone feels confident enough, or they trust their teams enough to be able to show up as they are, then you're never going to get to this understanding piece. So it's really, trust is a huge part of it. Understanding is a huge part of it. Dropping some of your guard, maybe, right? We all have our masks on, and just being comfortable to be able to show up and say, okay, what can I do differently so I can help my teammates feel a little bit more comfortable here.
How do you restore that trust in people? Because there are people that don't even trust themselves, and as you said, it
Mhm.
starts with you, right?
Mhm.
Um, but one of the biggest issue I see with a lot of people is trust. So how can we open that door up? What is the I don't know, do you have the magic ingredients to create or help create trust?
It's interesting, right? Because trust is, it seems like it takes a lot of time for people to build that. And then in a second, it's gone. And so trust is that funny thing. I mean, some people will say, well, you should trust really quickly, and until someone gives you a reason not to trust them, then you just trust them. But other people will have the perspective of, you need to earn my trust, and so I'm not going to trust you until. Now, I'm not here to judge which one's right or wrong, but I think at the end of the day, you need to get to know that human in front of you. When we talk to teams, when I work with teams, most of them, it's very service. It's about work. You come to work and it's just work. And I think if you're going to build trust with people, you need to peel back the layers as to who is that person I'm working with, right? Get to know the human that's at work with you. Get to know maybe their fears, get to know a bit about their family, get to know their loves, get to know what they loathe. And the more you get to know the person, I think the more you can build trust, because they're no longer just someone you go to work with, but they're a real human with the same fears and struggles and joys and, gifts. And the more you know that, the more I see teams opening up and being able to trust one another. Um, So
Yeah,
yeah,
a
it's
lot
I
of
think it's
people.
just vulnerability.
Yeah, because a lot of people go to work and they got that attitude was I'm not here to make friends. Here to
Hmm.
work. And that's not true because when you go to work, you have to love the people you're working with, and you're
Yeah.
right. You have to accept them. Um, but why is it that we were fed this our whole life, or is it just today's a? Because it's gotten worse. Let's
Hmm.
talk about this. You know, because it's gotten worse
Yeah.
over the year, and it's like, you know what? I don't want to deal with you. I'm here to just do my work. But that's not what a work or a team environment is. Because if you don't communicate, it's dead. So
Yeah.
do you purposely pick out the opposites when you put these teams together, or is it just potluck?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Someone yesterday asked me, "Do you walk around and analyze people all day?" And I say, "No, I don't. I'm not walking around and like, oh, that person has this style and this person has this style, right?" Um, I think I don't know. I think it's bringing all these people together and just doing your best to help them lean in with understanding and help them to see, you probably notice this as well, the different styles. Some of the styles may be a little more skeptical. It's just maybe in them, but some people have been hurt by leaders or by other people. And so, right, there's all these other layers. And that's why, especially when I'm doing the work that I do, I make sure I'm not putting people in boxes, right? I'm making sure I'm not saying, well, all S's are skeptical. And so they don't build trust as quickly as an I, or for example, because it's not just about our letter and our style,
Quick-
it's about our
Quickly
experience.
define so people know what you're talking about when you say D's,
Yeah.
I, S, and C. What are those categories?
Yeah. So the D are those people in our lives who are a little more dominant and they're direct. We see them, they have this presence to them. What is your style, by the way? So I'm an ISSI. I say both because I've done my assessment a few years ago, and when I did it, it said SI. But as I'm starting to grow and learn, I'm like, yeah, I think my I is starting to move up there a lot more. Um,
I'm a D. I'm a DI, but most
you're a
people that
TI.
know me say you don't seem like a D.
Mm.
So
It's cool because, and again, going back to the putting the people in box, when I just said the D, direct, dominant, driven, results focused, we may look at someone like that and go, ooh, that person's scary, right?
mm.
And that's not the case. Most of the DIs that I know are so lovely, so kind, just like you, right? And that's why it's important that we don't label. But it's that understanding. The I style is very influential and inspiring, and they're fun and they're outgoing, right? They really want to make everyone around them have a great time. And then the S's, they're more of a steady and team player. And, they're the glue that holds families and teams together. They're very reliable and loyal. And then we have our C styles who love numbers and they're data driven and they are systematic and calculating. But I say that with caution because I know people who have all those styles who don't have those characteristics, right? Who are very different than what I just described. And that's because you have all these other experiences and lenses and filters and things that have happened in your life. Again, that will inhibit you to trust, or will that you make you really trustworthy and quick to trust other people, right?
Yeah.
It's and that's why I say we really need to get the human that's in front of us, not just the worker. And it's beyond just these assessments that we do and these team building days that we do once a year. It needs to be more than that.